Adam Giles here with your bi-weekly Zen Float Facebook Lives. So welcome. Again, I'm Adam Giles. I am Zen Float Co.'s float specialist. I'm the guy that when you guys call in, you speak to, go through details behind the tents as well as floating in general, which I spend a lot of time doing. So that's actually why today we're going to take a little bit of time and actually go through a lot of the benefits of floating. We're trying to cover the majority of them that people actually really contact us about, but there are going to be probably quite a few that we don't go through. A lot of these are backed up by research. Some of them are just things that we go through and we get from results from people that actually do float in ourselves as well. So we'll cover these. One thing before I go through this, I want to make sure you guys have gotten on our new floating community page. If you haven't already, it's called The Floating Community. Check it out. It's again made up of people that are just floaters. Not all tent owners, but people that have made their own tanks, as well as just people who go to facilities or people just interested in it, looking to get into it. So definitely check that out.
Mason and Ellen say hi, Adam.
Hi, Ellen. Hey, Mason. We got Randall behind the camera, guys, today, so say hi to him as well. All right, well, let's jump into this. So here's our tent. Again, this is mostly a complete list. Let's see. There clearly is an outrageous amount of benefits for floating, so definitely make sure that you listen up to this, and if any of these relate to you and you're not floating yet, make sure you get out there and try it. Whether it's at home or not, just get out there and try it. All right. Oh, a disclaimer, just so you guys know that some of this stuff, I mean, it does relate to medical issues and whatnot. So we never, ever, ever trying to tell people that this is the fix if you have major pain or anxiety, whatever you're on medication for. We're not saying that you can completely stop all of that, you know, but it does definitely help with most of those issues. So let's go through this. Let's see. Oh, also, we do have a pretty good list of the benefits that we'll post on the actual messages here shortly as well, with a link so you can get to our website and check them out as well. All right, so first off, it reduces anxiety, which I need to clearly float right now. So that's a big one. Actually, probably one of the biggest things I hear is just people wanting to relax, which is, of course, because of high anxiety, stress, whatever it is. That is scientifically proven, of course. There's a doctor named Dr. Feinstein who's done multiple research, extensive research on this, actually. The amygdala, I'm just reading this actually, is responsible for your fight or flight response, as well as your stress responses. And Dr. Feinstein has actually found that the effects of the amygdala floating affects the amygdala in the same way that most medications do. So that is a big part of it, as well as floating reduces your cortisol levels, which is produced when humans have high stress levels. On top of what it actually takes out, and I apologize for having to have my notes here, but I want to make sure that I get all of this information to you guys as fully as possible. So it also, when it takes out lowers the cortisol levels, but on top of that, it will lower your ACTH, as well as your lactic acid and adrenaline. So all great at reducing your stress levels. All right, the next thing I want to go through is improving your athletic performance, which is a big one. I mean, you've seen the Patriots kicking butt. They didn't do so well in this last Super Bowl, but they still played well. They're big advocates on floating, as well as Steph Curry is a big advocate on floating as well. Actually,
supposedly the Eagles are big on floating as well.
Ah, see, and they came back and took it. But it helps for many reasons in this area. So, including visualization, of the actual game, visualizing every play. That's a big thing. So you're basically, it's muscle memory. You're seeing yourself do something in your mind, and then you're actually following through with it in real life.
Like Adam doing Facebook Lives, so he can practice that in the float tank. I probably should do then that. He won't have anxiety.
It increases your mental clarity as well, which is, again, for athletic performance, as well as your muscle recovery. One study found that it was actually a study done, they had judges rating athletes And the whole point of the study was to have athletes doing certain things that do float and athletes that don't float. And they found that 50% of the time, the athletes that do float outperform those that don't.
Wow.
Let's see. It was also, it's also believed that because floating affects the amygdala, athletes who float more are more likely to stay composed and think clearer during high pressure situations or in high intensity situations.
So they won't yell at the ref?
Exactly. Let's see. On top of the magnesium in the water, of course, the Epsom salt works as that natural muscle relaxer and pain reliever, healing injuries, basically this is a big giant Epsom salt bath. So on top of that, I mean, the meditative state that you get into is also helping to heal those types of injuries as well. So it boosts your creativity, which is a big one. I have a lot of artists, musicians, or just people in the type of field of work where they need that increased creativity. Marketing, things like that. So, let's see. Oh, you know how we have actually those creative ideas when we're falling asleep? That's because our mind is actually clearing and we're allowing our brain to get rid of all the junk that we fill it up with on a day-to-day, and more ideas are coming to us because we're more present within ourselves. And that's the same thing that happens to you while you're in the float tank. Let's see. So yeah, nothing to distract you in there, and your mind just comes up with its own thoughts. So same thing. So 2 groups were tested. We got floaters and non-floaters, and the group again performed 50% better at free-form brainstorming than the non-floating group. Let's see. It minimizes pain, which is a big one, again, for a lot of the people we work with. There are a lot of people that I know that float. We have a ton of pain success stories. People with fibromyalgia that have completely cut off their medications or just reduced it, or any other pain disorder, of course. And that has a ton of research behind it.
That one does have research?
Yeah, it does.
Nice.
Let's see, one study found that fibromyalgia patients self-reported less pain up to 2 weeks after floating, after just one float. Another study found that people with chronic pain disorders self-reported decreased muscle tension and pain, as well as, lastly, another study was done which proved floating to be an effective form of pain management for those suffering from whiplash even. So, let's see.
Matthew Johnson says time away from kids.
Yeah, it's great for that as well. When I talk to people on the phone and I hear kids screaming in the background, I just say, well, I guess I don't need to ask you why you're floating. I'm going to touch on just why we're on the medical part of it. I'm just going to touch on a few other things that it actually does off of my own little list here. Let's see. So it increases your production of endorphins. It speeds up the healing process as well as rehabilitation and recovery. It boosts your immune function. It improves circulation and distribution of oxygen and nutrients. Reduces your blood pressure. So people with high blood pressure, heart conditions, whatnot, this is going to significantly help them. It reduces your pulse rate, your heart rate, your oxygen consumption. So just a ton of health benefits, clearly.
Ellen says no pressure points.
No pressure points?
Mm-hmm. Probably reduces, you talk about this all the time, it reduces inflammation, which is big.
Which is big. So when it's acting, the Epsom salts working as a natural muscle relaxer, pain reliever, detoxer. But a part of that, and I even think that it's because our tent is even grounded more, that grounding and all of that working together actually reduces the inflammation within your body. So where you have the aches and pains, you have arthritis, that's going to help significantly. Actually,
gets blood to those areas better.
Exactly. The inflammation is a big cause of most diseases and just illnesses in general. People don't really think about that stuff. I mean, that's why when our stomachs are backed up, the inflammation in our intestines and whatnot, people don't really realize how big of an issue that actually is. And by doing this, it's going to help that significantly. So, let's see. Again, disclaimer, we're not telling people to not take medications and float instead, but it is going to help significantly. So, reducing addiction. actually reducing addiction and helping to stop from habits, phobias even. I have people tell me all the time they have claustrophobia. When they actually start floating, that seems to diminish, or they just don't. Well, at least they're not telling me they're having an issue. They keep doing it. So as far as addictions, we're not saying that it's 100% it's going to curb your addiction, of course, but I have had many success stories where people have stopped smoking, stopped drinking, stopped eating unhealthy things, which in the end, think of the money that people save in the long run by doing that kind of stuff. I have one guy, specifically, he stopped smoking. That was his intention with starting floating. He stopped smoking, then went from that to stop drinking, and then again to start eating healthier as well. So a whole life change, and he's now saving thousands a year, which completely eliminates the cost of a float tank, period. So, let's see, one study found that participants who engaged in REST, which is restricted environmental stimulation therapy, which does not always mean floating, but similar, were likely to stop smoking. So, just back on the smoking thing. But that goes for any kind of addiction, really. I've talked to people that have, opioids addictions or whatnot. It helps them to cut that kind of stuff down. Or people shopping addictions, things like that. And I think it's a big part of it is just centering with yourself, realizing that you don't need these fillers to have the type of life you want, or to feel less stressed, or that you need to fill a void of some sort. So
basically, materials don't make happiness. Just being happy with self.
Absolutely. Let's see. Next is weaning off your medication. All right. Again, we are not telling you to stop taking your medication. That's different for everybody, so you definitely want to consult with the doctor after you start a practice, of course, because
we have seen it done, though. We've seen it done.
Yeah, we have seen it done. And it is something that you definitely don't want to just stop taking one day.
Do it with the doctor's guidance, but it can be done.
Absolutely. So, many people have reduced, if not completely, like I said, gone off their medications. So, myself, just my story, I have a shoulder injury that pretty much messed up the side of my body. And in my 20s, doctor's fixes, when I went to the doctor, they put me on a lot of pain meds, multiple scripts of pain meds, on top of muscle relaxers. And that led to anti-anxiety, depression, sleeping pills. And that's another big thing it does, is it helps with your sleeping, which I might cover. They have me on 7 or 8 medications at once, where I take 0 now. I don't even take ibuprofen unless I have a pretty bad headache, which is once every couple months maybe. So nothing significant. And it's changed my life, actually. I feel 1,000 times better by not having to take any types of medication.
Ellen says, floating is the only relief I get. Meds no longer work. Wow, that's awesome.
There you go. Again, we're not advocating you stop taking the medication. Just know that if you're committed to a float practice, there's a good chance that you can definitely start eliminating them. So, also, again, think of how much money you save when you're not going to the doctor, the medications, or I talked to a girl the other day who, she has the medication, she goes to physical therapy, she goes to chiropractor, she gets massages. That all adds up over time, where, eventually maybe she didn't have to do any of that. Improved sleep. We are going to cover sleep. So, floating is, it's the relaxing experience that you get from it. It just leaves you with a blissful feeling, which some people find that it's great to do it at nighttime and then just go straight to bed because they're fully relaxed and they can just sleep through the night with no problems whatsoever. I'm not going to mention that, but let's see. Sorry, folks. All right. It probably has to do with the fact that the cortisol levels are lowered, as it probably does, as well as the adrenaline levels are lowered as well, which, if your heart's not racing, you're completely relaxed, you're going to get a much deeper sleep, period. The next one is visualization, which is, I think, so much more than what people think. I mentioned this earlier, like with athletes and whatnot, but this is amazing as well for anybody that wants to accomplish anything in life. People that are in business or just have bigger goals and dreams in mind. If you're visualizing those things and setting your mind on it, it is kind of like the power of the mind. Things will start to come about. You got to do something about it, but it takes keeping it on your mind and actually focusing and seeing that success, what you want to accomplish. But it definitely helps you get there by sitting in here, by floating. And like I said, visualization, it builds that muscle memory in your brain. So you see what you want and you go for
Repeat it in your mind over and over.
Mm-hmm. So imagine yourself doing it, something perfectly. While you're in a tank with no distractions, your body will remember that and how it feels, so you can get there. It improves your focus and your memory, your learning capabilities, all of that. But on the focus, it's like hitting a reset button. People don't realize that we are energy. We're like a computer. Our brain's a computer. Just like when our computer starts to run slow, we have to shut it down, reboot it, or clear the cache, get rid of all the extra junk that we don't need. And most people don't do that. So by floating, it allows you to actually reset yourself, get you where you need to be. And so after you come out feeling just much more relaxed and refreshed with nothing basically to distract you in a float tank, it lets your mind fully relax and kind of focus on really what's important. And that's a big reason why this is great for ADHD people as well. That's another medication that I used to take, is my ADHD. They had me on Ritalin from the time I was in 2nd grade. And now I have a nephew who has the same condition, but I've gotten my sister to get him floating instead. And it helps him significantly to be able to focus in school. And actually have a lot of people buy these specifically for their children and in order to help them with their ADHD, enhance their learning capabilities, increase their emotional intelligence. So they just outperform, because actually even emotional intelligence, studies have shown on that people with higher emotional intelligence outperform those with higher IQs 70% of the time. And I think floating is the biggest thing to help you with increasing your emotional intelligence. Helps you slow down and really think about the situation you're in without overreacting, letting people stress you out. People are garbage trucks. They drive around all day filling themselves up with junk until they unload on somebody. And if they unload on you, oh well, because you'll be fine.
Ellen says one of her visualizations is doing a bike ride. So it looks like she was in an accident 9 years ago, but visualizing to be able to ride again. Well, keep at it there, Ellen. You'll get there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome. Actually, Ellen, I have another guy that reminds me of a gentleman that I just spoke with. That's why he floats as well, is so he can actually visualize his bike rides. He's doing a cross country. He did it last year as well. He's doing these cross country. He actually is trying to figure out a way where he can take the tank with him, so he can visualize that and also help with the muscle recovery as he's doing those long rides. So the next thing is decision making and problem solving. There are no distractions in a float tank, guys, so it's easier to feel what you want to feel. Meaning, you truly get down to the nitty gritty of what you really want out of life, making that decision or that problem in your life a lot easier to overcome or decide. So, your mind focuses on one thing basically, only your thoughts. That's why you can get the most out of it. Your mind becomes clearer and sharper, understanding what you really want, and the clarity that your mind allows. And clarity of mind allows you to make more informed and quicker decisions. So, the next one is spirituality, which this is a big one for me. I started a spiritual journey last year, and I've noticed more recently that floating is helping significantly with that, because I think that's what it is. And I think that's even why a lot of the results you see from floating come from it, because it allows you to get into much deeper meditation practice, where I have a lot of people that actually get these and start floating because of that reason. They want to enhance that meditation practice that they already have. And they want to explore higher levels of consciousness. And that's what it allows you to do, is take things to a different level, a completely different level. I've talked to people about astral projecting, lucid dreaming, all kinds of stuff that actually helps them with that spiritual journey. It, it deepens your meditation and development of new and increased consciousness. It, creation of new new sources of life energy and discovery of deeper inner resources. And I think that's a big one, where we don't really tap into what we already have accessible to ourselves. Really what we need in life, what we want out of life, it's within. And so, the last thing is it revitalizes hair and skin. I was bald before I started floating, guys. Not really, no. The magnesium in the water helps, or the Epsom salt makes your skin just like silkier. A lot of people think it's going to dry you out, but no, it's not. Like Epsom salt is not a normal salt. It's actually not even salt. It's a mineral. And so people don't realize it's not going to be like sodium chloride, like the salt we put on our food and whatnot, that will just dry you out. That's what it does. It soaks the moisture out of you. And so the Epsom salt works as a little bit differently. You know, treat your skin to a nice little treat, as well as your hair. You know, your hair may be a little bit thicker, feel weird after, but it will feel great. Just give it some time. So, let's see. Again, that's not all of the benefits, you guys, but let's see. Let me just make sure I covered some of the extra ones I wanted to cover real fast. Let's see. Increases your motivation, which is a big one for a lot of people, to feel, you know, demotivated to actually get up off the couch and do something productive after work. They just want to come home and sit down, or maybe your job's not quite what you want, and you know you want something more, but again, you come home and you just stay to the grind that you've always been in. You know, I actually talked to somebody recently who hated his job. I think I mentioned this last time I did this. He said it saved his life. He hated his job. He was working in an area where it was just buzzing all the time, and he thought he was going crazy. So he started floating, and he realized that this was not what he wanted out of life. So he ended up quitting his job, and now he runs his own business. And right after he quit his job, he lost like 30 pounds, he said. And a big part, and he didn't change his diet. It just lowered the stress levels in his life, and he was just living a happier life, which made everything else kind of come into play for him. So, let's see. Again, some just extra stuff that it does. It stimulates your left and right brain and synchronizes them, which, I mean, I've seen brain scans. This is something I've looked into recently. I've seen brain scans where, you know, where we have function here, everything's highlighted. What it does is brings it together, so it's working together, your left and your right brain. Promotes mental clarity and alertness, increases creativity, problem solving, expands awareness, intensifies acuteness of all senses, as well as it accelerates your learning. Enhances your, I do this, but enhances hypnotherapy and self-hypnosis for people that listen to self-help little things and whatnot. Does help. This increases production of endorphins. It speeds up the healing process. It boosts your immune function, improves circulation. I already went through all that. Yeah, that's all I already went through all of that. So, in closing, it's like going to a gym. Floating is, you guys, or a yoga practice or a meditation practice. I mean, you have to keep doing it. You know, you're not going to go to the gym once a month, because I talk to people. Oh, I go, once a month or every other month or whatnot. You're not going to get everything from it that you possibly can by doing it that often. It's just like a gym practice or a workout practice. You have to consistently do it. Not spend a little bit of money here and there for truly no results in the long run. You may feel good right after, but you're not going to get everything you need from this, or everything you want from it, or everything you should get from this, unless you build a consistent at-home practice. Or, again, it doesn't have to be at home, but the easiest way to do it, of course, is at home. So, unless you have the money to go to a facility quite often, which, go to a facility. Let's see. Yeah, that's it, you guys. So, in closing,
the main point I think of this is that it's for everybody.
It is for everybody. I have people, like I said, from children to people in their elder years, that they say this is just their normal health regimen. They take all the weight and gravity off of their joints and muscles, allowing them to actually heal, feel better, take the arthritis, pains, aches out of their bodies. So
healing the mind is the biggest one. Let it relax.
Mm-hmm. That is the biggest one. So give yourself the opportunity to, if you're not floating yet, to actually soak in all of this, because it's a life changer. It truly is. Make sure, again, check out the floating community page. Keep asking us questions. If there's anything, if there's anything that we didn't cover that you guys think is an amazing benefit that you want us to shout out on the next one, or just talk about on the questions here in the feed, let us know. Definitely keep asking the questions. We're going to keep checking it. And yeah, if there's anything that you would want us to cover on these Facebook Lives, feel free to let us know, because we definitely are open to your suggestions. So yeah, thanks again, you guys. We will see you next week, and we appreciate everything you guys do for us. Have a great one.
How do you stop this thing?